welcome to the next episode of the Powerless Podcast. In this episode, I talked to Will and Nico, who I realize in my very tired state of recording this, at times called Nico for some reason. So I'm sorry about that, but great conversation with both Nico and Will, who are members of the band Resider out of the San Diego area in California. We talk about their song Rat Race, which is maybe their most politically charged, socially charged song. We get into the nitty gritty on that. We talk about Gasfight, which was their latest song that had been released at the time of this recording. We talk about their newest song that wasn't out yet when we recorded this, called Pissing, which is an absolutely fantastic song as well. Very angry song and really anthemic. And we also talk a little bit about some of their earlier work, including Spore Breath and kind of the connections of that with The Last of Us and things like that as well. I talk about what the band's trajectory is going forward. We talk about a few music discourse things as well, including bands like Linkin Park and Falling in Reverse / Ronnie Radke. So we do talk a little bit about that and their perspectives and mine. So a lot of stuff to go over, from breaking down lyrics to the start of the band to some at-large musical discourse as well for fun and everything in between. So I really want to thank Will and Nico for coming on. This band is absolutely fantastic. If you like any heavy music, they've got something for you. Really balls to the wall music, but also a lot of diversity from track to track, and a lot of different topics that they cover, just from angst and anger to a little bit of storytelling to, like I said, social political commentary, and everything in between. So definitely check out Resider on all socials. It's Resider, Resider official. All that will be in the links below. Again, check out their newest song, Pissing, as well as Rat Race, Gasfight, and their whole back catalog. There's not a bad song from this band, in my opinion, on their discography, so definitely check it out wherever you listen to music, whether it's Spotify, Apple Music, or wherever else. And make sure to follow them to see where they're playing. They've been going on tour off and on recently. When we initially spoke, they had just done a leg of tour, so definitely follow them in all those places, and maybe you'll be somewhere where they're touring. If not, follow and have them grow, because this band should definitely be bigger than they are, and I think they deserve it, both with kind of their hustle online and trying to push their music, as well as the music itself and the craftsmanship. So thanks to Will and Nico for coming on and having this great conversation with me. Definitely great and easy people to talk to and have a long form conversation with. Make sure to follow the podcast on all social media at The Powerless Pod. Email me at thepowerlesspod@gmail.com if you want to be on the show, whether you're an activist, journalist, producer, musician, just like in the case of Will and Nico here. I've had a couple of authors on as well. I talk about everything from politics to social political climate stuff to music discourse to breaking down albums, everything in between. So definitely come and message me there if you're interested, or if you want to tell me how much I suck at this. I'm always open to all those things as well. But we'll cut off the intro here. Here's the episode with Will and Nico from the band Resider out of California. Thanks so much. All right, I am here for the next episode of the Powerless Podcast with the band Resider out of Southern California, right? That's what I saw from your socials. That's where you all are at?
Yep, San Diego.
Awesome. Okay, San Diego. I had some family that lived out there for quite a while. I loved getting out there from the brutal Midwest winters periodically. So I absolutely love San Diego. So we're going to talk a little bit about the start of the band, break down some of the songs you guys have put out, and kind of your songwriting process, all that good stuff. And I just got to say from the top, I think I found you guys off of like a reel you posted recently on social media. And what I really appreciated about your guys' music, I'm kind of getting ahead of myself here, but I appreciated how much a lot of metalcore and modern metal bands now do incorporate that kind of some new metal elements a lot, but they don't quite like put it so much at the forefront, like of like kind of the homage to like classic new metal of like the early 2000s and late 90s that I personally love. It's like probably my favorite genre of music. And I love that you all like meld it in a way that's like a lot more gives a lot more respect, I guess, to like, I'm sure the sort of genre that a lot of us first got into heavy music with, which I thought was really cool. I think one of the first songs I heard was Rat Race, and
yeah, that's a fun one.
Like, I heard a part of it, and I was like, that could like Head from Korn could have like straight up like written that riff. Like it was like
that's quite the compliment.
Yeah.
That's quite the compliment, sir. You flatter us.
But I'm getting ahead of myself here. I had you guys introduce yourselves to me before we started recording, but why don't we go first with Will and just have you both introduce yourselves and what you do in the band to start things off here.
Cool. Yeah, I'm Will. I do the screams and the singing and Resider, the microphone, the lightest instrument.
He makes mouth noises. Hey, I'm Nico. I play bass and I do backup mouth noises.
Nice. A lot of mouth noising going on. That's good for a podcast, so that works out.
Yeah.
but I happen to have you on. What I like to do to kind of break the ice a little bit with bands, because you never know what people listen to, even if you're kind of making new metal, modern metal music, is kind of ask both of you, and I guess with each question, I'll start with Will and then go to Nico, just that way we're not talking over each other. But what have you been listening to lately? What would be on like your Spotify on repeat or the equivalent of? What are some bands that you've been kind of like on your radar a lot lately? It could be the biggest band. I mentioned Korn. It could be Korn. Could be a local band down the way that you've done shows with, or whatever in between. What have you been listening to a lot lately?
The best band on the planet, Bill Murray, is the best band ever.
Great answer.
I've been a fan of that band for a very long time, so that's always on my radar. With like newer stuff though, I always dig. There's a artist named Sorry X that I've been listening to a lot lately. Got some really cool music, definitely up and coming. I stay in the metal genre a lot, and then off of that, and kind of on a segue with Bill Murray, Nox is a pretty cool like pop artist that's been blowing up the last year or so that I really like pop punk, so it's kind of in that rock pop punk vein, pop rock type stuff. So that's kind of what's been on my recent stuff.
Very cool. You said that one was called Nox. I'll have to check that out. This is why I really do this, is because I am so out of the loop on bands, like outside of like the very niche stuff that I listen to, that just gives me homework to listen to for the next week. So appreciate it. Nico, what about you?
Just starting a podcast so you can get music recommendations. I feel that.
That's right.
Yeah. I've been listening to a lot of like old school punk, or not old school, but like kind of 90s punk. I've been listening to a lot of like Bouncing Souls, NoFX, then going even further back, like The Clash. I just watched the new Bob Dylan biopic last night, so today I've been listening to a lot of Bob Dylan, the original punk rocker.
Yeah.
And then and then outside of that, just like Sleep Token. I feel like everybody else on the planet, that new song is just so good. And that new Day to Remember album.
Oh yeah, the new ADTR is really good.
Oh, it's got a chokehold on my life. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, that album's actually really fucking
It's like
good.
the best thing they've put out since Common Courtesy. And like, we listened on the last tour we were on, we like played it front to back on our drive down to San Diego for the hometown day, and it was quite the vibe. Just driving down the coast, got the ocean there, you and the boys, listen to All My Friends, and you're just like, yeah, dude, Hot Boy Summer 2025, let's go.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard. I'll be honest. I listened to a few songs from the new ADTR, and I liked them. I was pleasantly surprised because, like, yeah, Common Courtesy was probably the last one from them that I was really into, and I don't spend time shitting on bands for trying different things and whatever else. I think that's a boring thing to do with your life, but I just wasn't into the last several releases that they had personally. But I've heard that like people that say like Common Courtesy was that they really like this new record. So I definitely got to check it out. The Sleep Token song is one for me that like every time they put out a song and it's like 6.5 minutes long, and you're like, wow, this is like the same chord progression just building up over and over and over again for 6.5 minutes, and yet somehow I mean that's simplifying it,
works.
but like somehow I totally love that and I'm okay with it, and I'll put it on repeat. Yeah, I don't know how they do it, but they just like scratch that part of the brain for so many people.
I feel like Sleep Token specifically makes music for neurodivergent people. Like it's autism metal is what it is.
That's fair. I mean, that's
why does this Jet Breakdown have a saxophone over it? I don't know, but it works.
Or the what was the song that blew up really big from Take Me Back
Summoning.
to Eden?
The Summoning, yeah.
Summoning. Where like at the very end of it, then it just goes into
jazz.
like this. Yeah, and it's like it works. Whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know how, but it does. Yeah. I know. I absolutely love that. Well, thanks for going over that. So I gotta listen to Nox, and then I actually gotta listen to the new ADTR album. I'll give it a fair shake. Sounds good. All right,
it's a good album.
Let's get into your guys' backgrounds in music. Again, I'll start with Will first and just kind of go down the line here with each question. I like to ask kind of the background for you of how you first got into music, where music was really it became more than like a sidebar thing that you listen to in the car with your parents or whatever was on the radio at the time or whatever the case may be. And then how you got into creating your own music. So kind of go back as far as you can and tell me like bands or certain periods where you like first really got into music as a passionate thing for you.
Okay, cool. This is going to be like a tattoo deep dive for me right now. When I was an adolescent youth, somebody against my parents' wishes gave me the American Idiot album, and that is still one of my favorite albums of all time. I think I love Green Day in general, but it was nice to hear something so, I guess, edgy at the time. Edgy, kind of big. I must have been...
What radicalized you?
10, 11 maybe. But like, yeah, American Idiot was just really cool. And then watching the Bullet for a Bible DVD was really cool. I used to watch that on YouTube on repeat. And that became my first favorite band, and I learned like a shitload of Green Day songs on guitar. Just listening to those albums on repeat all the time. And then moved into like more of the metal world when I was a young teenager. I was skateboarding, and I was around older kids, and they were like, "Yeah, you should check out this band, All That Remains, or check out this band, not Miss Man. What am I thinking of? AFI. I don't know why I got that mixed up." That was my introduction into like screaming, and then all that, and then I got really obsessed with Avenged Sevenfold on the early days, and I was like, yeah, dude, this is the coolest thing ever. This is like one of the best bands I've ever heard in my life. And and then kind of like getting into that world, and then started to go to local shows. Saw Asking Alexandria and All That Remains at Soma for like my first like club show, I guess. Even those are massive bands.
That was your first show
at Soma, yeah. I've seen like ZZ Top and stuff, but like
I was at that show.
But like the first show I went to was All That Remains headliner with Asking direct support, and was like, I remember seeing Asking Alexandria, knowing like 2 songs off the album, being like, what is going on? This is insane. People are smashed against the bar. I'm standing next to the monitors. It's loud as hell in here. This is gnarly. And then I was like, yeah, this is really cool. So then being in local bands from there, and just doing the local band thing for a while, and kind of going through life figuring out what was the root of it all. And it all came back to like punk rock and nu metal and that early stuff. Linkin Park's obviously deeply embedded. Korn and Disturbed are deeply
if
embedded.
any of us knew how to rap, it would be on the thing, but
yeah,
know how to rap.
I gotta get a feature for that.
Yeah.
We try not to talk about like Linkin Park and stuff too much, because it's just so obvious.
Yeah.
It's like everyone I know Avenged Sevenfold's a huge band too, but it's like, I feel like if I say Linkin Park, everyone's like, well, duh.
Linkin Park is like the Led Zeppelin of the alternative. Well, they're just like so ingrained into everybody. Like I'd be hard pressed to find somebody that you go like, oh, you listen to Linkin Park, and they go, who?
Yeah. I'm pretty sure like people's grandparents at least know the name and have heard a song. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
household name.
They're like the modern metal rock, hard rock, whatever you want to call it, Beatles at this point to be like, that might be sacrilegious to people. I don't care. Like, I don't know anybody, like you said, I don't know anybody that's like into music, or especially like writes music in any sort of heavy alternative vein that like wouldn't reference, at least, I mean, I'm a every album Linkin Park apologist. I would go on to that for days.
I absolutely.
Like my favorite album of all time is 1,000 Suns, and a lot of people are like, "Oh, that's your favorite Linkin Park record?" I hated that one.
Yeah, that's
fuck you. It's great.
That's a steamy hot take. Anybody that leave your hate comments in leave your hate comments in the comment section, folks. Like,
I'll clip this part just to get the clicks and the hatred. Dude, that'll be.
We've reached the rage bait portion of the.
We found the thumbnail. Yeah. That's the thumbnail.
I'm too positive. Sure. I gotta start doing those kind of things for the clips. But I guess since you brought up, and I'm going on a tirade here, and I promise we'll get to your guys' music. But I'll ask you both and kind of put you on the spot. I haven't done this with anybody with Linkin Park yet. Like I said, I'm an apologist for all albums of Linkin Park in all eras, including the new one. What is your opinion on the new Linkin Park with the new singer?
Okay, so here's the thing. I'm all I was like, you've put me on the spot. You put us on the spot here, and I don't know if I appreciate that or not, but I'm gonna answer your question.
Sorry.
I know it's fine. So for me, I have a mental block. I cannot get past the fact that it's like yes, it's Linkin Park. Like, it sounds like Linkin Park. It's the members of Linkin Park in one way or another, whether they're like touring members or just like staying behind the studio members. It's just, there's a mental block in there not hearing Chester's voice that like, if I ever get over it, like, you'll be the first to know, but it's going to take a little while for me. But all in all, like, the songs are definitely like catchy, but that mental block is just always going to be there for me.
I don't know. Okay, so Empty Disc Machine came out, and I immediately was like right down the middle with everyone. I'm like, it's not Chester. but like this is actually a really good song. Like from a literal standpoint of songwriting and melody and everything in composition, it's a really damn good song. And like I think it's catchy. I love singing it. I like warming up to it. I think it's a really damn good song overall. However, going back to it, it's weird because before Chester died, they got a lot of hate for going so soft and poppy. And like, I can't really speak because I'm not in Linkin Park and I don't know anybody in Linkin Park, but I can't speak for why they were doing that. So it almost feels weirdly in a mockery to go really far backwards.
It feels like the Star Wars sequels. I think that's the best way to put it. Is it feels
nostalgia
like
bait.
It's the member bearings.
I've gone so many deep. It's like watching a TV show you love over and over again and like trying to refigure out why it went that way, because it just doesn't make sense why all of a sudden Chester's been gone for a few years or probably like 5 or 6 now, but gone. And then all of a sudden they're like going back to the roots kind of sound, but with still modern production. And you're like, why weren't they doing that with him? Was that like, I don't know. That's getting real deep into it though.
Yeah.
We're getting into like conspiracy theories.
Yeah. I mean, I think like, and I'll stop because I could go off on this for the whole time, and I'm not going to talk about fucking Linkin Park with you guys. But like, I think a big part of it is being gone for, he died in 2017. They came back in 2024. That's 7 years.
Yeah. Well, okay. It was a hot minute.
And Mike Shinoda, I'm like total apologist for this band. I love Mike Shinoda's solo material, the whole 9 yards.
I like the solo stuff too.
And I think he maybe got a lot of that pop sensibility out of his system over these several albums he put out in that 7-year span. Realize what people liked about Linkin Park. They're gonna come back with a new singer that's already gonna be a lot for people to take in, as we've seen. And they're like, we haven't written a song and like drop C sharp with a couple of breakdowns in it in about 10 years, 15 years. Let's do it, But I hear all those arguments. I just, like I said, I'm a total apologist. But thanks for going down that rabbit hole with me for a second.
Yeah, I mean, in the end of the day, everybody likes what they like. Like, I may not like it, you like it, but in the end of the day, like in 100 years, we're both gonna be dead, and it's not gonna matter. So, like, fucking listen to it. Like, if you dig it, you dig it.
Yeah, right. And if you don't like it, you don't spend your time on the internet festering over a keyboard, screaming at people that
the
enjoy
hate comments
they've
received are insane,
dude. Yeah, I don't have enough time in the day to like just like be that angry at an album. I'm just like, oh, well, I guess I'm not listening to this. But then you find there's some people that are just like, my whole year's ruined.
Yeah, it's like the other albums still exist, buddy. You can go back and listen to them anytime you want. Well, again, thanks for going down that kind of random thought train I had there. But Miko, I didn't ask you about the differences for you with your coming into the music foray here. Where did that come from for you?
And I'll try to keep it as short as I can. The short answer is Guns N' Roses.
Nice.
I listened to the Appetite for Destruction album when I was like 10, and I heard the solo for Welcome to the Jungle, and I didn't know guitars could do that. And I was like, what is that? And they're like, oh, it's a guitar. And I was like, oh, fantastic. So years later, I play bass now. But from Guns N' Roses, I got into hair metal and like a lot of punk for a really long time. I remember growing up listening to just like Ramones, Sex Pistols, the normal stuff, and then like early AFI and things like that. And then I got into pop punk, Blink-182, being from San Diego, and the fact that like their first album came out the year I was born. They've been in my life this whole time. I just remember in high school, me and some friends getting together and deciding to jam and doing some cover songs of our favorite classic rock and pop punk songs. And then I think like sometime in early high school, I heard like Breaking Benjamin, and I heard Not Good Enough for Truth and Cliche by Escape the Fate. Mm-hmm. And from there, I realized that like that's the music that I really like. So I just got into the metalcore scene and played in local bands all over the place for a while, and like played in a traditional metalcore band like 10 years after traditional metalcore stopped being a thing. So, that was really fun. And eventually me and Will just kind of linked up by a chance of a friend that owned a studio. We both happened to be there for a late night session. I think he was like 18. I was 21. And we've just been kind of always involved with music with each other since then, like here in different one form or another, whether it be playing shows together or being in different bands together. And yeah, it's just, it's one of those things that evolved naturally and, came from the connections that I made from playing in bands and just meeting new people. And, at 32 years old, here I am still doing the damn thing. And, with some of the, best friends I've had in my entire life. So I think just the vibe is what I've been here for this whole time, and just riding that wave until my body quits on me.
Well, yeah, I mean, a lot of those bands you named off are iconic. Same with Will, and I noticed from both of you, and I mean, this is kind of like obvious too, because Southern California in general is such a formidable area when it comes to iconic music acts. But a lot of the main bands you all are naming off are primarily from the SoCal area, right? You mentioned Avenged Sevenfold. Again, for me, Waking the Fallen was like the first record I really got into that had like all screaming and in some
I
songs.
bought that record years after it came out, but I bought it.
Same here, and like I was like learning every song of the guitar to the best of my ability, other than the solos. And Blink 182, all the No Effects, right? No Effects is from the West Coast as well.
A lot of the punk and the ska punk came out of like Orange County and like
a lot of ska.
Beach.
Suburban Legends too. Another weird segue of Avenged Sevenfold too.
I mean, hey, like if we're gonna talk about like famous people and famous like rock acts from San Diego, like Eddie Vedder from Pearl Jam's from San Diego,
right.
Like there's so many bands that came out of SoCal that like, especially in an alternative scene, that just have been so influential for so many people growing up. That
isn't Grohl from here too?
Dave Grohl's from
LA.
SoCal punk bands that blew up in like the 90s and 2000s. Like I think like at least half of the Tony Hawk Pro Skater, soundtrack is from SoCal.
Yeah, let alone like Rage Against the Machine and everything else in between,
Korn.
right?
Yeah,
Korn.
Yeah, Korn. We're just gonna spend the next hour naming off the best bands and how they're all from your guys' area.
Welcome to the Korn podcast.
But I mean, that's got to be a cool thing, both on that large level and the I know there's from people I've known in the past, just a big local scene over the years from the San Diego area, SoCal in general. When you both started kind of getting going with bands, was that like a big like positive influence for you to get out there, to get on stage and all that, when you knew there was kind of like this? It's not like, I grew up in the Midwest in the middle of nowhere where like being in a band would be a struggle to get 20 people at a show, right?
There's many bands out of the Midwest that are...
That's true.
Ohio's got it on lock.
21 Pilots is out of Columbus, all right? Like, that's like my favorite band of all time, probably.
Yeah.
21 Pilots? Yeah, I got to see them at in Chicago in like 2011 or 2010 at like a crowd of like 100 people. Like it was before their record Vessel, I think, came out. And they were like starting to play some songs from that. And yeah, it was so weird because we were like two people on stage and I didn't get, and then they started playing. And you're like, oh, this is gonna be special. I didn't realize they were gonna get as big as they were, but you're like, oh, this is a really good band,
Yeah. How do two people sound like 500?
Yeah, right. But was that like was that a big push for you both to start creating music? Was kind of like that live experience that you wanted to be on stage? Was it that songwriting kind of what brought you into creating music from there?
Yeah, I mean, so I think when I was in high school, our local scene was really, really popping. It had a very strong, like, attack type of era. The scene core or emo core, hardcore. It was a much more, and this is also back before, like, everyone was phones in hand all the time, internet, social media. Like, we had just MySpace, Facebook, just barely popping off. And so I feel like, going to shows in high school was super cool. I remember my first side stage show was when I was like, I could do this. I could absolutely do this. But I think back then it was just different. It's the scene, our scene in San Diego specifically, because we're a weird market. We're not LA. LA has everything. LA is everything all the time, always going. Oh, Orange County is sort of its own thing too. But San Diego has always been a market that is sort of skipped on a lot of bigger tours now because people go from LA straight to Phoenix, or they hit Orange County, Anaheim area, and they go to Phoenix or they go to Sacramento. We get skipped over a lot. I mean, we still get a lot of shows and we have good venues and really historic venues too, but our scene does tend to wax and wane. And right now, as far as rock goes, the underground scene that's been kind of popping up is that surf punk, surf rock. Our metalcore scene was great in the 2010s and our hardcore scene's always been pretty good, but it's right now it's kind of shifted into like a weird surf rock thing again, which is kind of interesting. It's really cool, but it's not as great on the metalcore side of things. We don't have as many bands as we used to. Not that our bands are bad or we don't have a scene.
It's just not as active as it used to be. Back in the day, it was like everybody was at Soma, like the local venue here. Like for bands,
like early Pierce the Veil days too. Like early Pierce the Veil
bands
days.
They never heard of, nobody like had ever seen. Bands that like we were sure were going to be the next big band and the next like hometown heroes, so we would like turn out for them. And then just kind of died off for a little while there. I mean, for me, when it came to like writing music, Like, I'll be honest, I am a dreamer to a fault at a certain point. I just, like, at a very young age, I remember me and my best friend being like, we're going to be in a band. And I just have ran with that for so long now, to the point where, like, I feel silly, you know, but I'm still having a great time. But, like, it's literally, it was one of those things that even at a very young age, it's just something I knew I wanted to do at, like, some level. You know, I remember my first, like, performing was literally, like, me sitting in front of, like, I think it was like an Albertsons with my acoustic guitar playing random songs to try to make a few bucks so I could pay for a Warped Tour ticket. And then I was like, this would be cool to get paid more than the cost of a Warped Tour ticket for it. And here I am, still just making the cost of a Warped Tour ticket.
the joys of the grind of being in a band, right?
Yeah, the band hasn't caught up to the inflation of festival tickets yet, you know.
They need to get those. They need to get those ticket prices up there, man.
Yeah,
Where's Ticketmaster at now?
Yeah, dude. It's good. It's good.
Yeah, you got to make sure to up the ticket price and up the ticket fees, so that way every single show costs approximately $500, and then it'll be good. The scene will recover. It'll all be fine.
Yeah, that's exactly what it needs. It needs high ticket prices,
right? I know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, these numbers, math,
trickle down economics. You pay the bands a lot of money, and the shows will get better, and people will spend more. Yeah, that's what it
needs. Ticketmaster will just start paying bands money when they get to a certain threshold, guys.
Exactly. What a concept!
Back end.
What a concept for artists to make money off of what they do instead of just getting fucked.
Yeah.
I don't know. That sounds like some commie bullshit. I don't know, but I'm just kidding.
Sounds like you want a handout. You need to pull yourself up by your bootstraps, there, son.
You want to get paid for what you do? No. But no, that's cool. You know, that in different stages you all got to kind of come up in the scene and kind of get going and making your own music. That kind of gets us to the project that you're both in now currently that we're here to talk about. When did Resider come together? And how did this band kind of form? And you kind of alluded to it a little bit that you guys met through like a recording space or something, but how did the band get together?
We could go that far back, but the easiest way to answer is Resider initially was a band called Thorn that was about making ignorantly heavy music. It was like, imagine if like Dillinger Escape Plan just played and dropped double B flat. I don't even know that's a tuning, but like we did
drop
that.
Z,
drop what the fuck, you know. And then events happened that were a little bit crazy that we won't get into, but it basically turned into a situation where one day we just kind of, the remaining 4 members of that band were like, hey, you guys want to do something that's anything but this? And here we are.
Pretty simple. Yeah. It was just a turning point in everyone's lives. There was just some events that transpired and that everyone was just a little like, all right, a little over it, a little stressed out from that. And we were just like, yeah, let's do something, a little bit more, I don't want to say commercial, but like
a little more marketable.
A little bit more marketable and rocky.
Or a little more
and
dynamic, like, maybe, right?
Yeah. I like kind of towards our roots, I guess, is a little bit more accurate too. Because saying marketable always sounds like, oh, we just want to do it for the money. Like, no, I grew up on it. I listen to it.
Yeah,
still.
I want to make the music that I
listen to Linkin Park. I listen to Linkin Park once a week at least.
Yeah, still exactly. It's just going back to what we knew. Yeah, and it's you know, we're really happy that it went this way, because the old band, it was fun. We had a good time doing it, but this definitely is more in the realm of like what we all listen to regularly and actually enjoy doing, and it's not nearly as stressful.
Yeah.
And it just took one of the band members completely disappearing off the face of the earth to, you know, make it happen.
Yeah.
That'll do it.
Yeah.
To go into a little bit, you said that band was like you described it as ignorantly heavy, which I can kind of guess what kind of, you know, maybe like kind of like Kubla Khan on steroids almost, or like that kind of thing.
Not like beatdown. It was like imagine deathcore but with complicated time signatures.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it would be like you'd be listening to it and you'd be like, yeah, this is a cool break.
Yeah.
Something changed.
It
went into 13-16 there for about 4 measures, and now we're back. Yeah.
Actually, it was weird. Like
it was very much like that, and it was also really different because there was like really no singing whatsoever. It was just me and Will doing like screaming vocals.
Yeah, it had its moments, but it was diverse in a way of like heavy music, and it was definitely in the deathcore realm. But again, it was deathcore with Dillinger style time signatures, and you're just like
death mathcore.
Why am I? And like it was fun to do and all, but it was never taken super seriously as a band, and it was never really designed for live either. there were things that it was like, I remember programming the guitar solo, like I played it, but I would do it like one bar at a time because it was like in 6/4 and it was like I couldn't play that fast, so I'd have to do it like and then like edit all the fucking notes to be what I wanted them to be, and it was just like,
that's deathcore, baby. There you go.
It was something else. It was something else. This is
the reason why I ask that is, Will, your vocals, for better or for worse for bands, vocals kind of make or break when people first hear a band. You can make
for me they do for sure
grooves, you can have the greatest instrumentation, but it's like what pulls people in a lot of the time, right?
I don't like country at all, but I love this new Bill Murray album.
Yeah, well, right, there you go. But the reason why I was kind of asking what the previous iteration of the band, so to speak, was because like you have quite the dynamic range of your voice on these songs for Resider, and I guess was this the first project that you really had to go like balls to the wall with that kind of like belting singing and all that kind of stuff? Was it kind of a or like was it a formative change, because it seems very natural with how you deliver it from even the earliest song you guys released?
So I was never, I don't want to say I was never a vocalist in bands until I was like 22 or 3. I was a drummer in bands for every local band I was in. I was the drummer of until I got to one, and we just ran through vocalist after vocalist. It was like 3 or 4 vocalists. And I was just like, dude, like I write the vocal parts anyway, but I like can't really scream like that. And then like I started kind of figuring it out one day by accident. We did the whole like every member switches instruments, and we just started, messing around, and I just started yelling, and then kind of got a weird rhythm figured out. And like, as I'm sure you can pretty much see any vocalist talk about in their interviews, they're always going to say they sound whiny and pitchy when they're younger. And it was really true. It was really whiny and very, I almost want to say almost like Knocked Loose, but like more scramsy and more whiny than Knocked Loose is in the beginning. And I just ended up doing vocals. And then we were tracking a chorus with that band. And I remember it was supposed to be all screaming. And since the style of screaming that I do is very like higher in register, at least for some of that stuff, my main screams I guess would be a little higher in register, I kind of got a pitch to it. And then they were like, you know what, you're kind of singing almost like you're kind of doing a bring me thing here. And I was like, so we wrote the whole chorus like that. And then I was like, I guess I can kind of do that. And then pretty much as projects went on and on and on, I just bit off more than I could chew every time. I was like, cool, I'm going to write this part and I'm going to figure it out. And it slowly has gotten further and further away from screaming into the singing realm to now to the point that I could say that I sing confidently to a degree. And then Resider is for sure, especially with the new songs, is the most dynamic I've ever done. But Thorn was more dynamic in the sense of screams. It was just every scream from high to low to this technique to that technique. Whereas Resider is now more like, hey, you're going to sing this chorus, and then we're going to have a little part, and it's going to do a little falsetto right here, and then we're going to do normal screaming here, but then we want like a lower pitch. And then like, okay, we want lows buried under here. So and this is all choices between everybody. Like the vocals are, I think I write most of them, but then collaboratively we kind of get together collaboratively and go into them and be like, well, I didn't really like the way that was executed, so let's try this. And that helps a little bit with me push the boundaries and get a little more dynamic sometimes, because sometimes someone will be like, well, like the way you're saying it just isn't what I want to hear. And I'm like, well, what do you want?
It takes a village,
Yeah. Tell me what you want.
It's good that you can be collaborative that way, though, too, because that's how you end up getting the best product for vocal lines, delivery, the nitty gritty of recording and songwriting. So that's
that guitars. I just don't believe you. And he's like, what do you mean? I'm like, I don't believe you're playing this riff right now. Like, you gotta convince me that you mean the riff. And he's like, okay, and like he'll get it. And I'm like, now it has the vibe. And I'm like, now do it twice.
I think with like the band, we also have a really weird way. We have weird ways of hyping each other up. I remember there was this one time we were doing like vocal takes, and like I was doing some vocal take, and like it was late.
Yeah.
Need to be shithouse drunk. Like, I think the song that we have coming out, I almost blew out my voice entirely recording it because I was like, it just needs to be so over the top and angry. Like, I need to actually push over the limit. And it's funny because, like, I think a day before that, AJ had sent me a reel of Landon tours from the plot. And you talking about, he's like, I don't got nothing going on the next day. Track it how you want to do it. Like, who cares? What do you got going on the next day? And I was like, I'm not on tour. I don't need to scream again tomorrow. So
yeah,
right. There's a difference, especially when you're recording with the delivery as opposed to how you're going to convey it live, right? Like that's something that I learned from Matt. I never remember if it's Heffy or Heafy from Trivium.
I don't know what it is either, but I know what you're talking about.
That he blew out his voice. He had to do all this different stuff to kind of scream the quote unquote correct way on tour because he had been going full tilt like he does in recordings.
Yeah, I learned that the hard way too. Yeah, I learned that the hard way.
And so he started doing that and fixed everything. And then he was in the studio for the first time since doing all that. And he was still doing it the live way that I think instead of screaming, Melissa Cross had kind of taught him how to do. And the studio guy was like, but this isn't how Trivium sounds. Like, you can't do that. And he's like, no, this is how I'm supposed to do it. He's like, same thing. He was like, buddy, you don't need your voice tomorrow.
Yeah.
Like, this is not for tour. So it is interesting, like the kind of different dynamics there of like songwriting and production and recording as opposed to like live performances. And it's not something like, unless you kind of figured that out yourself, or in my case, like heard that from somebody else in like a long form discussion, you wouldn't even realize people do that, right? Like you're like, oh, you do your vocals, you know, and it's like, yeah, but like people expect so much out of, especially if you're an up and coming band like you guys all are, and like, you know, a 30-second clip somebody sees on social media is make or break if they end up following the band, right?
Right.
And it's like people expect such high production value that you gotta, sometimes you gotta blow your voice out for the take. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If I'm gonna leave any advice for if anybody that is like, I'm just throwing this out into the wind. If anybody is trying to learn how to perform for recording, convince yourself first. Like, if you don't feel like you've convinced yourself mentally to do that take, it's like calling out sick at work. You got to convince yourself you're sick first. Yeah. Like, then you can convince someone else.
Yeah. You got to get that.
So true.
I got to mentally make myself go, yeah, I'm not going in. I'm feeling it. And then like, then you call. You don't call them and be like, yeah, I don't think I can come in today. And then they're like, well, we have this going. And you got to be like, I'm not coming in, dude.
Like, you got to take like 30 seconds to practice your cough, get the right level of raspiness.
You convince same thing with vocals. Convince yourself first, and then the rest is good to go. If you can convince you can convince someone else.
Right.
Again.
Here's a nickel's worth of wisdom for you.
Yeah.
I was to say, hey, that's some good advice. Yeah, that's some solid like recording and songwriting wisdom right there.
And how to get out of work.
Yeah,
how to get out of work, which
I always do
I have
it.
No idea what you're talking about. I've never done that myself, ever, never. Okay, no, but to go from there, you know, you mentioned the last couple of songs, you know, that you all have released have been definitely like even more dynamic than like the first iterations of the music you've released.
Oh, for sure.
Oh, yeah.
Since at least the earliest I could find was 2022. You put out the song Spore Death. Is that the first song?
Spore Breath?
Ever?
Spore Breath, yeah.
Yeah, that was the first one.
It's right in front of me, and I think I've been watching The Last of Us too much or something, and I thought of
so
that's what it is.
Ironically,
that's actually what it is.
That's what the name of the song is after. The Last of Us. That's where the name came from.
Is the song itself like about that in general, or is it just sort of the song title?
Isn't the song
the song's like a weird like neo take on like
leave my name out of your fucking mouth?
Yeah.
No, AJ had the song long before the band was a thing, and he like gave me a demo, and then I was like, all right, I'm bored. And so he gave me the demo, and I was like, okay, cool, I'm just gonna sit with this for an hour or two and see what comes off my head. Gave him back the thing, and I literally titled it Will Pete on this, and he was like, this is kind of good. And so I was living in Portland at the time, and I was away from everyone. Sorry. And I was just tracking whatever came off the top of my head, which is kind of how I do vocals in general. It's kind of how I get a vibe. Whatever intuitively comes to me for a song is usually what I'm going to write about. Like if a line comes to me and I'm like, that's sick, I'm probably going to write the song. That's whatever my brain was subconsciously thinking about and feels for the song. So that's what I'm going to write about. So Spore Breath, I was kind of just like, I think I came up with like the chorus first, and I think it was, I found a new way today. And I was like, okay, this is kind of interesting. Like, you know, And then I think it kind of just became about like the feeling of unrest and like the negative, or it's like the negative effects that like other people have in life and kind of spreading it like a disease sort of. So it kind of had a weird play on The Last of Us, because AJ was super into that and he was like, yeah, I want to call it this. And I was like, all right, cool. Well, then we'll kind of write about it as if it's like a disease that's airborne, you know, and like kind of make it about like, you know, negative effects of society on people and stuff like that. So
yeah, that still makes sense. Yeah, as sort of a metaphor or simile or whatever the fuck.
Yeah, it wasn't meant to be
like
that deep, but that's kind of how we connected it together and stitched
no, that's
it.
cool. I like that. But you know, like those songs, the first couple of songs you all released, I really, really enjoyed. You know, obviously I found out about you, like I said, from the Rat Race song. But the last few songs you've released really do feel like, you know, you said marketable, and a lot of people use that as a bad term, but if the song's good, it's not at all. It just means you wrote something a lot of people will enjoy. And what was it? I think from Hostile to the last song Gasfight that you guys have released, you know, those kind of four songs from 2024 to now are just absolutely fantastic. I was really impressed with what I heard. You know, the songs are concise, like 3.5 minutes long, a lot packed into them. I think it was it was Gasfight I was listening to in the car for the first time. And that sludgy, like you said, drop double B flat earlier, jokingly, but that drop Z area where it just goes like a full octave down of just sludge. I was like, this is just fucking insane. Was that like for the later songs that you've released over the past year or so, was that like a conscious effort to kind of make them more that way, or did it just kind of come together with you guys writing songs more together and the songwriting process and all that?
Well, Gasfight is the newest, so that's like a whole new thing. Yeah.
I think really what it is that like, just like any other band, like you'll listen to a lot of like, I think a really good example of that is like listen to Bring Me the Horizon's like first EP versus, you know, Count Your Blessings versus Suicide Season. I think it's just like that time. There's always that time period where you need to really like find your sound and find what you're trying to do and what direction you're trying to take it in. Not to say that the iteration we have right now is like where Resider sound is like ends the evolution, you know, it's just we got to the point where we wanted to make things that just kind of cut through a little bit more, weren't like, you know, a cookie cutter rinse and repeat of what every other, you know, metalcore, hardcore, whatever core you're listening to band was. And we just wanted to kind of make sure that when you're listening to a song of ours, you know it's a Resider song, not that it's just like another song that gets lost in the sea of like chuggy breakdowns and side to side.
We definitely, it's a weird song too to speak of, because something like Hostile is like in the more marketable range. It's, you know, it's a verse, it's a chorus, it's a lot of singing, it's got a breakdown, but it's not super heavy. It was more of a fun song that we wrote kind of by accident, and we were just like, this is pretty good. But then kind of coming into like Gasfight, it was a weird riff that I wrote, and then AJ kind of like expanded upon the idea, and then we kind of were like, these are some weird ideas, and then he was like, well, we had a chorus in it, and then he was like, what if this was the chorus, this weird riff? He's like, this is a weird, he's like, you've got this weird like hi-hat. He's like, hear me out, let's throw some hi-hat stuff in here. And so we started doing the and I was like, all right, this might actually be a chorus. And I was like, but how do I sing over this? Like, how do I, it's just chromatic. And so it got to this point where it just was like, yeah, this is heavy. We've been messing around with like the blended drop tones, and then we got to the breakdown and I was like, fuck it, push it all the way. And then he was like, well, what do you want to do? I was like, do a breakdown, no repeats, and make it just weird, and make it so that way nobody knows what's happening for a second. And so when it drops, it's like everyone goes, oh fuck, it's really heavy, it's going to be a breakdown. But then for like 4 bars, you're kind of like, I don't know what's actually happening. And then it fully kicks in and you're like, okay, we're actually doing a breakdown. It's just a weird moment. And yeah, we got to the lyrics and stuff, and I was like, yeah, it just needs to be heavy. Like, it just needs to be angry. It needs to be heavy. But then we keep getting comments of people being like, yeah, it's just like really Rob Zombie or really Power Man 5000. But somehow it's like as if they had double drop guitars. And I was like, I don't know, man. Like,
I
it's
think
just
my
what it
favorite
is.
one is we had some guy who said that we remind him of like a really beat down 9 Inch Nails.
Yeah. Weird niche, more niche new metal, you know, not the top names that you think of like Disturbed or Korn or Linkin Park. It's been like the under the radar.
Yeah, which is I don't know, it's cool. And like I could like get like I forget which song it was, and like I'm not saying his name is sort of like a value judgment, but there was I forget which song it was that starts off with you kind of doing like the kind of Marilyn Manson type, like
Hostile.
creaky voice.
Probably Hostile,
Yeah, I think it is Hostile.
Yeah.
The vocal fry.
And it was cool to just hear that after I had heard, you know, I think I had heard Rat Race and Gasfight, and I was just like, yeah, this band really is throwing in like more influences than I think a lot of, like I said at the beginning, than like a lot of other bands that are sort of like doing, you know, a breakdown with some of the like Westmoreland noises, and then like that's, you know, new metal influence. Like you were really bringing in things that like you would hear a big new metal song in 2002 and they'd have that same kind of delivery.
I mean, I could sit here and scream all day, you know, like I can scream and do gutturals all day or whatever, but I think I find it so much more interesting as a vocalist to have vocal diversity. And like, it sounds like tooting your own horn type stuff, but I really do try to like pride myself and take advantage of learning new techniques and learning ways to do them. And like, as it kind of goes, I do sort of already speak with a vocal fry. Like I kind of always am in that lower register and talking like that. So to sing like that and do stuff in that range is very natural to me already. So it's cool to incorporate something that's very loose and easy for me to do naturally. And also, like, again, I really loved that first Disturbed album and early Marilyn Manson. Nine Inch Nails is something I got into a lot later in life, but like Disturbed wise, like, yeah, that first album is killer.
I think new metal, especially when I think just metal in general, we see like a kind of like a very like circular or cyclical kind of way of that like metal and the alternative scene has gone. Like I think starting back to like the early inception, especially like, you know, like what was Scene Kids, but like the hair metal kids from like the 80s, you know, and now we have metalcore going into this more, you know, new metal kind of, you know, vein. Like there's this one local band that we just played with at our last local show, Silent Vice. They sound like that
Perfect Circle,
Tool, exactly, and that kind of side
right
of
up my
that.
alley.
Well, then also really like there's that one. It was Resistor.
Resistor has a turntable.
I've had them on the show.
Oh,
really?
Yeah,
they're sick.
Yeah,
Resistor.
They're so good. That's right. The new metal agenda, as it were. Yeah.
Yeah, the new metal agenda. Oh my god, I'm gonna put that on a shirt.
that's actually the news outlet that I write for sometimes. It's called that. So yeah,
really.
All right, I won't get sued then.
No, still do it. That's fine. But no, I mean, yeah, that kind of like. But I like the dynamics of it and in a good way theatricality of it. That's you know, not just with your vocal delivery, but also with the ebb and flow of the music. That like it feels like it's telling a story, which is like the best way someone can deliver, you know, a concise song. Lyrically, I know you said you kind of write it, Will, from kind of like a line that'll stick out to you in your head, might go off of that. But again, like what pulled me into kind of doing a deeper dive on the band and messaging you guys to come on the show is when I heard Rat Race and I looked at the lyrics of that one, because I'm really into like the fuck the system kind of music all the time. Like, and that's when like that one, you know, like the lyrics in the bridge that you say are like just like top tier of that kind of like anger of that kind of thing. So I guess I'm inadvertently asking specifically about that song, but what are some of the influences that you take from when you come to writing lyrics? Is it very much just like strain of consciousness, or are you kind of like pulling from, you know, I don't know, life experience? Or are you pulling from things you see in the news, doom scrolling on the internet? Like, you know,
I doom scroll pretty hard.
Yeah,
I doom scroll more now on TikTok than I ever do, and I get flooded with all sorts of things.
We don't have a song called Skibbity yet. So
I doom scroll pretty hard. But
I think we put out the doom scroll song.
Rat Race is specific, and like Nico can attest for this. I hated that song. No, I didn't hate the song. I hated how frustrated I was writing that song.
We had to bend his arm. Me and AJ.
I was so angry.
He's like, I'm just done with this, and I was like, bro, if you get rid of this song, we are going to fight.
We did like 3 or 4 chorus iterations. Like it just wasn't coming. We sat down, we did a whole session with it, and it wasn't coming. But like, I guess going, like you said, more specifically into the lyrics. So pretty off rip, I knew when AJ sent it to. So fun fact, Spore Breath, anytime AJ sends me a full song, he always sends it with a name. He doesn't ever really give pre-pro names like I do. I give crazy pre-pro names. Like Orange Frapulous was Gasfight because it was sort of a Zoolander joke. So Orange Frap is what they drink when they get in the gasoline fight, and hence the song ended up being named Gasfight. It's an Easter egg. People have caught on to it already, so I don't care about talking about it anymore. But with Rat Race, he sent it as Rat Race. Him and our friend Chris wrote that song together, and they sent it over, and I was like, yeah, this is a sick song. This sounds really good. And he's like, Rat Race. And I was like, do you want to stick with that title? Like, is that what he's like, you can change it or whatever. I was like, it's not a bad title. The movie is kind of like a good movie.
That's what it's based off of, is that movie with Mr. Bean where they're like trying to raise. Yeah.
It's kind of, and it's kind of about that. Like, it's not, I wouldn't say it's necessarily political, but it is very social economic value of like, I've had my terrible past experiences with the US healthcare system, and like I've had bad experience, and I'm just really angry with like a lot of this stuff. Most of our music's pretty anger directed, a lot of it. Yeah. And I think all of us are pretty fed up with like the current situations and stuff that have happened. And with that song specifically, I was like, dude, like, yeah, like I remember going through it and just being like, this needs to be a piss song, one. Yeah. And then two, it needs to have something, it needs to have like a kind of message behind it. So I went into it and was just like, I went through a lot of things, and I remember getting to the second verse, and it's just, you know, fuck this world and all it's worth. And like, it's not worth what the world is worth. It's worth as in like all of the worth in the world. Like, yeah, you know, and it kind of was just like, we went through it and they were like, oh, this is kind of like cringy, straightforward. I'm like, it's not, because like, it's genuinely like how I feel. Like, I really do feel like, fuck this shit. Like, I am genuinely angry about it. And we went through the breakdown like stanza. That's not even a line. It's a stanza. We went through that a couple times, and I was just like, yeah, dude, like this shit just feels repetitive. It feels this way. It feels that way. Again, we don't really try to dive too politically deep, but the message is obvious enough for anyone that wants to dive into the lyrics. It's just anger at the situations that are presented to us and the way that money feeds our society. So, you know, coming to the chorus, it was like, I came up with it finally after going through all the iterations, and I was just like, da, 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 and I was like, okay, sell decay. And I was like, yeah, because it's all, it feels like people just sell things that are made to break, sell things that are made. I can attest for that because I worked a job at a plumbing company. Water heaters are made to expire 1 year before they go on out of warranty, or they're are made to go 1 year after warranty. That's what it is. You buy a 6-year warranty, they're made for 7.
Yeah, I think with Rat Race,
there's a word for that. There's a literal word for something.
I think the words you're looking for is fucked up.
Yeah, there's a word for it though. It's called like light bulbs lasted too long when they invented them. So they designed.
Well, it's the age old, like it's more profitable to treat the disease than to cure it, you know, and that's what a lot of just the economic point. And
but a lot of things are made to literally break. Like they actually design them with lifespans.
Yeah,
because light bulbs were lasting so long.
I don't know if this is the phrase you were looking for, but at least when I look it up real quick, the phrase is planned obsolescence. Is that the way you say that?
That's a real thing. Yeah. I literally can attest for it. Like an actual, it's crazy that's a thing.
Yeah, Gillette can make a razor that could last forever. You know they can. But meanwhile, you're having to spend, you know, God knows how much every month on a new razor head for your stuff.
Planned obsolescence. But yes, that is kind of like the gist of Rat Race. I'm sorry. That is kind of the gist of the song.
It was one of those things where it's like anybody can go up there and like write a song that's just like, yeah, fuck the government and fuck this and fuck that, but like we didn't want to take that route with it. I think it was more so like, rather than trying to diagnose the problem, or rather trying to diagnose the symptoms, it was diagnosing the problem. Because a lot of these things that we deal with on a day-to-day in society, it's not because of just one politician one day woke up and said, you know what, like, fuck everybody else. It's that there's the element of greed, there's the element of the, you know, the oppression, as well as just like the overall, just like having that superiority to others that drives people to do those certain things. And it's without that element, a lot of these other issues wouldn't be there. So it's, rather than sitting there and just pissing and moaning about, you know, like, you know, the left does this, the right does that, and I don't like it. We are just like, hey, like, everybody is having this because of this. So why are we like turning it into like, fuck them, fuck this? Why don't we just say fuck that altogether?
Yeah. And also like, it's definitely like, you know, people are like, a lot of I feel like some of the comments we've gotten is like, oh, like people want to cry about the problem all the time but not do anything about it. And it's like, dude, like, it's kind of like being like mad about who your parents are, you know. You didn't really choose to.
Yeah, it's like, sorry that I don't have the option to have socialized healthcare, and like I have to, like, in order to just exist in this society, pay for these things, you know?
And it doesn't mean you can't be upset about something, even if it's short term, which it's not. But
yeah, it's just like one of those. Hence it comes back to like the rat race, just being stuck in a wheel where you're going around and around and around and around. You're running as hard as you can, but like if you're just going in a circle, where are you really fucking going?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a good way to put it, and I always like when people put lived experience at the forefront of these things, because like, yeah, you could be another bit, and there's a lot of great bands, like I said, like Rage Against the Machine is one of my favorite bands of all time.
No knock
right?
on
And
those kind of
they
bands.
can preach at you and point the finger, but it's cool and it's intelligent and it's fun. But like, I think like there's something to just stating how like the lived experience of what you've had. And I mean, that's any song that you put out. This is just about, this specific topic.
And it's crazy to go from, going from Hostile, it's a song about not giving a fuck and just being like, you know what, dude, like, I don't give a fuck. I don't give a fuck. What are you gonna tell me right now? I don't give a fuck. Like, I don't care about nothing right now. Like, I'm a little angry and I want to have some fun, but I'm going to express it in like an aggressive way. Cool. I don't give a fuck. And then you go to a song like Rat Race and it's like,
we give all the fucks.
It's like, I give all the fucks. Stop fucking around with the shit. I give all the fucks. And you go to something like Recluse that's more like interpersonal and like inner workings and more of mental health vibes and about, it's more about oneself than it is about, outstanding stuff. Because there's a lot and like what's cool about Rat Race too that I like is lyrically I feel like I did some cool stuff on it where I feel like there was some more clever moments with it. Like
I remember working on the lyrics for that and like really grinding down on that because of how many iterations we went through. And I by the end of it, I remember you and me like finally like being like I remember you and me tracking it and you were tracking it. And I was just like, or you were tracking it. I was just hitting R. And we got to the end of it and we were like, there's some stuff in here that is like very off the beaten path and like metaphorical, but also like at the same time, very direct.
Yeah, there's some stuff in there that's really cool. Like, I think the last line of the verse is like, why can't I remember it when I do it every day?
The last line of the verse?
Of the first verse about
I can look it up here.
Yeah, being shackled to the concrete. Running a rigged race, but shackled to the concrete is just like, it's like a double negative at that point because you're like, oh, it's rigged, but it's like, yeah, but you're gonna obviously.
If you look at the lyrics mathematically, no.
there's some stuff in there sometimes that I'm like, well, that's a little much, and it's like, yeah, but that's what it feels like. So
I think really for us really when it comes to like, we don't want to pigeonhole ourselves as being like the political band or being the band that writes about breakups or being the band that writes about mental health or being the band that writes about being pissed off and not giving a fuck. Like we have a song. We have at least one song that we've put out that falls into all of these categories. And it's more so, I think we're not trying to put ourselves in a corner because that's
commentary. Commentary on whatever the vibe of the song.
Yeah.
Like I said, it comes subconsciously. And then
life's not that simple where you just deal with one specific fucked up thing
ADTR.
Day in, day out. You deal with so many different things and you go through so many emotions and the spectrums of emotions that like, why just focus on this specific portion of your life as like your entire creative process? And, with the lyrics, Will takes the biggest hand in that without a doubt. But I think by the end of every song, when we have the process, we've all kind of put a piece of ourselves that we can relate to, whatever the subject matter is that he's come up with, into that song. I think that's what gives it a lot of its, its soul and its feeling, and the fact that like you can go from a song that's like I don't give a fuck to I give all the fucks, and like you're vibing every step of the way.
Yeah, it's kind of the goal.
Well, and that's the human condition, right? Because we all have moments where we are absolutely nihilistic, and we all have moments where we want to start the revolution and everything in between, So that's.
I'll tell you this: I've been I've been at that revolution for the last like 3 months now, man. I'm ready to. I'm just like, you know what? Like, I'm listening to like this is what I think it was Henry Rollins during like that one thing. He's like, you can't sit at home crying about this. He's like, you need to get out there and do it. This is what Joe Strummer trained us for. And I was just like, yeah, man, like fucking Joe Strummer, woo.
No, I know that's fantastic, but yeah, like I think that's a really cool. It's really cool that you're willing to cover all these different things. I think it's great to not pigeonhole yourself. It also makes sense because it's easier to not stifle yourself creatively and run out of get writer's block and all those different things. And it helps that first and foremost, the songs are good, right? Because you could write about you could research a specific topic and do like the craziest lyrics and do metaphor, but if the song isn't good, no one's gonna give a fuck, right?
True.
And the songs are great, and so when you do that, you also have lyrics behind them that are meaningful, whether it's social, socioeconomic or political commentary, or like inner dialogue or whatever the case may be. It helps that at the forefront of it, the songs rip, right? Like that's what. So thanks. I was going to a lot of times I have to do like a track by track with bands and ask them about each individual song, but you guys ran the gambit on that pretty flawlessly.
I mean, you asked about a specific song.
Yeah. No, we went with it. I loved it though. It's great.
If you haven't figured out by
You
now, we have a
mentioned
tough time
earlier-
staying on track.
No, but that's what I like about doing this stuff as opposed to the, like, little, social media clips or whatever. Is you mentioned earlier, and this is, I won't take too much more of your guys' time. I appreciate you coming on and talking with me, but you mentioned earlier that there might be another song coming out. So in general, I'll ask you, what's next for the band? You put out Gasfight was the first song put out in 2025. What's coming next for the band? What do you guys have coming up as far as whether it's what you're trying to do?
When does this
with tours
podcast come out? If it's tour, so you're talking the 14th. I got to look at the calendar, but if you're talking about the 14th or the
14th
21st,
at the earliest.
So
the next song came out already, guys.
If you're talking about the 21st,
it's fantastic.
Yeah, this is actually live. The new song's out. It's been out for a few days. I hope you're all loving it.
Yeah.
And it's called Pissing.
Yeah, the song's called Pissing. Literally.
Awesome.
Like pissing.
Yeah, so back to songs about not giving a fuck. I just took a person that I don't like very much. I wrote a very good song about, having a good time.
Yeah, about pissing.
Pissing.
It's like getting pissed on,
Yeah.
and both a metaphorical and like a literally, I would pee on you.
Yeah, literally.
Taking it back to that early 2012 Bring Me the Horizon,
Yeah.
Diss track level.
Yeah.
There you go.
Kind of a diss track,
more
but
diss
it's
track.
so vague that I hope there's enough people that wonder.
We need diss tracks back in metal. We've been waiting for somebody to just become our like arch enemy,
Yeah,
so
I
we
need
can
that.
just like put out a ripper of a song, just
I need to
talking
focus.
trash. But we're too busy.
you,
Everybody's so freaking nice, like we need to play with a band that's just a bunch of dicks.
Do you guys listen to Spirit Box at all?
Absolutely. We bring up Soft
The
Spine
song? Yeah, it's Soft Spine.
about.
Did you kind of hear about the discourse with all that?
Is it? Is it?
Is it about Ronnie?
I
Who
was
knows?
like, no way it's about Ronnie.
So here's my thing. He's done enough to that band as far as like kind of dunking on them
my
and shitting
gosh.
on them and all this kind of stuff.
Ronnie is. I don't want to say I stand
can't
with him
stand
or
him, so-
I don't want to say I stand
I
with him or
can't-
against him, but I think he's funny.
Yeah,
I'll
Ronnie.
give him he's funny.
Ronnie-
Bird things are hilarious.
canceled. No, I'm just,
I know, right?
Canceled.
He likes Ronnie Radke.
Yeah.
He's done.
He's on tour,
all
Ronnie.
I'm saying
Jesus.
is the man is creative and he's funny.
Is the music catchy? Absolutely. Do I agree with a lot of his personal opinions when it comes to like a lot of things?
Yeah,
no.
he's a touchy topic.
But
Yeah.
Here we go. Ronnie Radke's coming for smoke. Right
but
now.
dude, like he fucking makes me laugh. Like I'll like sometimes he says shit that I'm like, oh bro, ooh, bad take.
he's a
But
tough
someti-
take. He's a tough take for sure.
But sometimes he puts out like the video where he's walking around with his like long, beautiful flowing hair. Because good God, the man's got beautiful hair, and he just has a bird on his shoulder for some reason.
Yeah.
And it there's something about that it makes me laugh. And like, dude, like he has songs that are great. Like the song he did with Jelly Roll, like, dude, that song had a chokehold on my life for a couple weeks there. And like, I like.
we'll edit out the Ronnie Radke stand.
No, it's
No,
staying
leave it in there. Leave it in there. No, leave it in there. I don't give a shit.
I mean,
Listen-
yeah, he does. I don't know.
Listen, Ronnie
says
Radke.
You guys are allowed to have your own opinions, and
Yeah,
you're allowed
no.
to be wrong, and it's fine.
No, it's fine. No, hey, listen, I'm
Dude.
not. You can walk up to me and
I'm
go
just
like, "I
kidding,
hate
you
the
know?
guy. I hate everything he does. I don't think he's funny. I don't. Hey, like, hey, fucking, right on, dude. Like that's
Does
you.
he? Yeah, he
Like,
just has. Things
Am I
that
trying to
are-
be his best friend? Absolutely not. But like,
No.
and then there's
And
always
you know what?
that.
It's not that serious.
Yeah,
you
there's
know what I
always
mean?
that
It's
level
just
for me
not,
too
yeah.
that I can't get over because like again, like I said earlier, like not good enough for truth and cliche. Like that song, I heard that song, and that song like is what got me into like post-hardcore. Like without a doubt, like Ronnie's vocals on there are absolutely incredible, and and he just absolutely kills it on that song, and he kills it on a lot of the Falling on Verse songs. It's just like, am I going to have a conversation with him about like personal beliefs on certain things and think it's going to be like productive? Probably not.
No, yeah.
Probably,
Yeah.
I'll probably leave the room very fucking annoyed, but like.
But you like the music, and that's
I like.
fine.
I don't like
Yeah.
the music. I like songs. and I like the bird-
He's got yeah.
I like songs, and I like the bird. I really like the bird thing.
The bird thing is fucking funny.
Yeah,
The
like
bird-
that's-
it's just so off base.
It's
What is
top
the
tier.
bird thing?
He has hella
blocked-
birds.
He blocked me on social media like several years ago. I have no idea.
idea. Amazing. So
Yeah.
he has hella parrots.
Yeah.
And he likes to
Oh
post
my God.
videos.
Yeah, he posts TikTok
He
videos.
posts
with, like,
TikToks
the
with him and
parrot
his
on
parrots.
shoulder, Yeah.
They come up on my For You every now and then. I'm like, I gotta watch this because I gotta know who he's talking shit about, and he'll literally be talking shit to random people, and there's just a bird on his shoulder.
Yeah,
Like,
I don't get it.
Ronnie.
Dude, Ronnie, listen, falling
It's a cartoon
in reverse,
character. Yeah.
Falling in
Dude,
reverse is
he's-
just our generation's Papa Roach. Like
Yeah.
Papa Roach is still
Yeah.
our generation's Papa Roach, who I just saw like a few days back, and they absolutely killed it. But while I was watching them live, I like kind of had that realization. I was like standing there, and I looked over, I leaned over to my fiance, I was like, this motherfucker walks so falling in reverse could run. Like,
I mean, yeah, I mean, it's true. I mean, and yeah, Papa Roach talk about a band that's like done the gambit of like kind
Everything.
of falling
Dude.
away from what people loved and like coming back like in true force
and
you
bigger
know,
than ever,
comeback
too.
story.
Papa
Yeah,
Roach is
comeback story of the century.
massive.
dude, the tour I just saw them on, like they sounded phenomenal.
Oh, yeah, they're
Like
great band.
it was like it sounded so good. Like I laughed, I headbanged, you know, I cried a couple times, you know, and like Rise Against opened for them, so that was really cool because that
Oh,
scratched
sick.
that
We're gonna
scratched
cut
my
it in.
little
I
like
got a piece so bad.
EP, yeah, that scratched my political itch, you know, and Under Oath open, which is that always gets me going. But yeah, I think Will's gonna pee his pants.
Yeah, no, that's I get it. I've been there several times recording these myself.
Yeah.
But no, I mean that's cool. I'm glad the new song will be coming out. You said "Pissing," right? Is the
Pissing.
full title? Cool. I'll be
Pissing.
stoked to check. Yeah, "Pissing." There we go. Full circle. I guess while you're here solo, just you know, we'll wrap things up here pretty quick. Just kind of tell me, other than the new song coming out, like what the band, you know, what else you guys got in store, what you want to plug, all that good stuff, and then we'll pick a song to play at the end. Okay?
Let's here we go. So, you know, plugging, like I said, by the time this comes out, Pissing will be released, and that song we're really excited about. If you like Gasfight, I think you'll really like Pissing. We respond to pretty much every comment, especially the hate comments. We love responding to those.
I don't respond to them.
Okay, well, I just got put on the spot then. But yeah, you know, like we've put out a couple. We've gotten a fun little back and forth with people on remarks about eating the rich, you know, and
Yeah.
if you're into like apologizing for the 1% of people that own like 30% of the wealth of the world, that's fine. I'm not down for it, but hey, you know, that's your prerogative, not mine. You know, but beyond that, you know, we've that's pretty much all we got coming out in the future. And if things change, we'll be sure to post it on all our social medias, which you can follow by just going to Resider Official on any major platform, because we're not individual enough to have confusion.
Follow our LinkedIn. We're really big on LinkedIn.
Yeah. Follow our
LinkedIn.
I should actually I think I have a Yelp account, but I should make a LinkedIn.
Yeah, we
a
have
LinkedIn for the band. That would be fantastic.
Yelp has been my thing that I've wanted to do for years. I've always said I want a Yelp account so I can go on tour and review food places as Resider. Be like, hey,
nice.
We toured across from whatever venue and we went to this taco shop, or we went to this like burrito spot, or fucking, I don't know. I just assume there's taco shops everywhere because I live in San Diego. But
yeah,
maybe we went to like a deli or something. You know, we're just like, yeah, this gas station deli, terrible.
Awful.
I made it 30 minutes down the road before I threw up. I got sushi from this gas station at 2 a.m.
If you're buying sushi from a gas station, you're asking for trouble.
I was gonna say, I don't even know if that's allowed to be reviewed. I think that's more of a personal responsibility issue.
That's
so.
Like,
my next thing is gonna
totally
be
done that myself. So.
My next thing is
going
Resider
on
LinkedIn.
That's going on Yelp, being like, I went to this gas station. I don't know how to take care of my body. Sushi sounded good, and I'm 350 miles from the nearest ocean. So I said, let's roll the dice.
What's the craziest thing we've tried to eat on tour? I don't think we've done anything super crazy aside from just.
If you want to know the answer to that, you've got to subscribe to our OnlyFans.
I'm for sure gonna make a LinkedIn though. Like let's get connected. We can talk about positions. You can send me your resume. I'll read it for you. I don't care. I don't know.
I think the craziest thing on tour was for sure when I made pasta in the parking lot of Nevada City. We had this notion, and let's just nip this in the bud for any band out there that's thinking about that. You can't cook on the road. I don't fucking care how good of a cook you are at home. I don't care how much camping gear you have. I have many camping gear. I have a lot of camping gear. Much camping gear I have. I have many gold.
For your soul.
Yeah, and I was like, I know what I'll do. Just like, yeah, we'll get to the venue and I'll just cook a meal and we'll eat the meal, then we'll play the show. And then you realize that you've been driving for 8 hours and you don't want to cook for another hour, and you don't have a sink to wash your dishes in, and you're clogging venue sinks by washing a pan that has like burnt pasta in it. And then suddenly you go the next day and go, oh, this didn't get clean, and now the whole trailer smells like rancid cheese. You know, it's just not it. You know, like, just bite the bullet. Go to grocery stores to get your breakfast, have a healthy breakfast, and then fucking destroy your body with Taco Bell for lunch.
Or like what happened to the old you got to do the Taco Bell value menu, and then you got to do the you got to do like a PB&J a day, PB&J a day on tour. It's underrated. I'm telling you. It's the way to go.
Back to PB&J for sure, because that's such a power move. That's like
protein. You get some fruit.
Every time you whip out a PB&J, you eat one, and then somebody else looks at you and go, "Damn, that looks good," and you go, "Yeah, you wish this was."
It's the butterfly.
Right,
it's the peanut.
That's the best part about the PB&J.
It's the peanut butterfly effect.
Don't be the turkey mayo guy. Absolutely.
And if you bring tuna into the van, it's on site.
Yeah, it's on site.
Yeah,
you're getting left on the side of the road with that shit.
Yeah, dude, that's how you get left in the cold.
Yeah.
Well, on that note, guys, thanks so much for coming on the show. This has been a really fun one. I've liked kind of joking around and also getting serious with the music. It's a good gambit of things. Last thing that I have people do, and of course anyone listening, this will be in the intro as well, but all those links will be in the show notes below for all the stuff and the new song Pissing that'll be out when this is out. I do play a song at the end of every podcast as well for people that have never listened to the band before. They can hear the first song for the first time before they go and follow you and check out all the rest of the music. So you guys get to pick a song from your catalog. Could be the new one that'll be out, or it could be a different one that we've talked about to play at the end of this for people to hear.
I feel like it should be Pissing. I feel like it's angry enough, like that's up to people though, Yeah. I would turn your headphones down if you're listening to it.
Yeah, Pissing's fantastic. If you like Pissing, go listen to Gasfight. And if you like Gasfight, go listen to Rat Race. Or if you just hate society, go straight to Rat Race.
Or just listen to Bill Murray.
Yeah, or
I've made it my life's mission.
Bill Murray song at the end instead, and just no,
I'd be so sick.
The void approacheth.
Yeah, no, I've made it my life's mission to promote that band ever since they were at like 3,000 monthly listeners. Like I don't know.
Yeah, then they open at arenas with Sleep Token like crazy.
They deserve everything.
Light work.
They deserve everything that they get.
Yeah,
especially they deserve absolutely everything that they get. That band is so talented.
But yes, Pissing would be probably if this is out on the first, then
Pissing will be out for like 10 days.
Yeah, Pissing will be out soon. We haven't started our cycle for announcing it yet. We're kind of coming off the back end of Gasfight, so we haven't really. I guess I don't know. I feel like you don't start the promotion cycle for singles anymore like a month in advance. It's more like a week to two, depending on what you're really doing.
So it doesn't get lost in people's minds and all that good stuff. Yeah,
it's kind of like a waste.
Right. No, absolutely. So again, we're going to play Pissing at the end of this. This has been Resider out of the Southern California area, San Diego. Thanks so much for doing this, guys. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you. Not a problem.